I'm Megan Skidmore. For 2.5 years, I have been talking about evolving faith journeys. I started to tire of the heaviness of this focus. I had the clear message come through. It is time for Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast to evolve into Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. With the same vulnerability and unapologetic authenticity, I will be focusing on the joy in this journey, the life and the living that comes on the other side of maybe, on the other side of what's possible. I want to talk about claiming spiritual sovereignty and becoming your own captain of your vessel. Let's celebrate releasing what no longer aligns for you and connecting with your higher power and honor expanding your energy field to make room for all things new. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. You know, I have been on this journey for a while now. Like I can count on two hands how many years. And it's kind of this point in my life when my faith journey, I call it, took a pivot. It's kind of before that moment. And then there's life after that moment. Kind of like with the pandemic, we tend to talk about life prior to the pandemic and then post-pandemic. And so there are friends that are kind of pre-faith journey, pivot in my faith journey, and then those that I have met and been able to call my friends and cultivate relationships with post taking that pivot in my faith journey. And Beth Hinze, you are one of them. And I'm grateful for you. And even though we don't live in the same town nor get to see each other super often, there's just people that you connect with on a heart level, a soul level, that you can trust to share things with. And so I thank you for that. And I'm really grateful that you accepted my invitation to come on and share your story. So welcome. How's
Megan,
that for an
thank you.
intro?
Oh, you're so awesome. You're so sweet. I feel the same way about you. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. We never realize who we're going to meet through some of this,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
we're always afraid, but
Yeah,
the reality is
for sure.
so much good.
Yeah, when we met, I don't know what you call it. I'll just call it your faith journey had, I guess we could say, pivoted multiple times when we first
hmm
met.
Yeah.
And you were really in the thick of it. And like you said, you brought up that word fear. I think I had mad respect and love for you. And there was this part of me that was like, I was afraid. Like, what does
Yeah.
that mean?
Yeah.
If I were
Yeah.
to see my path, reflected in yours in some way. And that's what, when you grow up in a very high demand, structured, what's the word, conservative faith background, it can condition your thoughts, your wiring. And when you have layers of trauma on top of that, it can get
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I'm in a different place.
Yeah. It's
So,
it is so crazy how, like, when you are brought up in a conservative faith background, one of the things that you and I both went through is just being told repeatedly to never leave, and the fear
mhm.
we're taught, if you go, like, that is, I think it's one of the things that keeps so many people from even stopping to ask, like, what else could there be for me, or what else is out there? It's like you can't even entertain it. It's too scary.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So let's rewind a little bit,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. Can you share a little bit about your background with our listeners, including, your upbringing, your family, um, what that was like? Include elements of your family now, um, your faith of origin, and I guess the things that have really are kind of the milestones or the key moments of your journey, of your path.
Yeah. And as I tell you this, if you have like a question about it, You can stop
Yeah,
me at any
I will
point.
jump
Yeah,
right in. Yeah,
because I will just talk.
that's good.
Well,
Talking is
yeah,
good.
so I'm Beth Hinze, and I am the middle daughter of 2 converts to the LDS, the Mormon religion.
So
My
convert means they
parents
weren't born in it.
Yeah, neither one of them were born into the LDS religion, and my mom, both my parents grew up religious-ish, right? But
Okay,
my mom, when I was oh, she got baptized the year I was born into the Mormon church, but initially what had happened is that my biological father brought the missionaries home, the Mormon missionaries home, um, after work one day, and my mom went in the other room. She's like, "I don't wanna have anything to do with this." And long story short, she ended up being the one who joined the LDS church, and he did not, and he never did. And eventually they, divorced for lots of reasons, and she raised us
okay,
in the LDS church, and when she remarried, who we call our dad, who, technically would be our stepdad, he, adopted us, and then we were sealed into the, Mormon church as a family, so we call him our dad. He also raised us, and he joined the LDS church separately, and then they were eventually set up on a blind date as the only 2 Mormons that this particular friend had. And so, that's why they were set up on a date initially, but then
okay.
yeah, yeah. So, I have, um, sisters and brothers, and it's a whole long, family tree
Yeah.
that would take a lot of, you know, looking at, staring at, and
There's
quizzes,
his,
but
hers, ours, theirs,
yeah,
yours,
yeah,
mine.
yeah, and so just know that I am the only sibling of my family of origin who has left the LDS church, but I was brought up, raised I went to every, camp that you could go to as a teenager. I went to, um my dad's job moved us from the University of Texas. I'm from Austin, I live in Austin. We moved from the University of Texas, his job, to the University of Utah when I was in high school, so I finished high school in Salt Lake City, and so in high school, I finished around a lot of LDS people, went on to Ricks College, which, is now BYU, Idaho, and then transferred to BYU for my last 2 years of school.
I love that you
So
went to Rick's College
I know,
and
I
that
Ricks was it
you
was
call
so
it that.
fun. It was so much fun. Yeah,
That just means we're of the same generation because that's really
yeah.
cool.
People
Yeah.
they'll say, "Oh, you mean BYUI?" I'm like, "No, no, because that's a 4-year school. Ricks was a 2-year school,
Mhm. Yeah, it was
and I
very
went to
different.
Ricks." Yeah. I'm not quite sure why I did that necessarily because it was so cold. It was so cold, and
Yeah,
my
I've
best
heard
friend went to school in Hawaii, and I'm like, "What? Why did I what?" But anyway, it was really fun. Um, but then I eventually married, um, someone from Salt Lake City, and, a lot of even choosing who I married, all of that came from a place of a lot of, this religious programming. Like, I made the choice myself, but I think there's some parts of it that are really tricky that had I a lot of stuff, knew that it was okay, knew that I could, graduate from BYU without a MRS degree. I think I would have made some different choices, but that some of that fear had come in. Anyway, we were married for 18 years, and we were married in the LDS, Salt Lake City temple.
okay.
We have 3 boys, and, my oldest is 21, then I have a 16-year-old boy. I don't know why that just touches me. I just love my kids so much, but
You're a good
and
mom.
then I have a 12-year-old boy. He's, a 7th grader. He's in high school or, middle school, and, and then I'm now remarried. We divorced, gosh, 7 or 8 years ago, and I remarried, and my husband has 4 adult children, so I have 4 bonus kiddos, 2 in-law bonus in-laws, 2
Dang.
grandbabies. Yeah. So it's a
Wow.
big, happy family, but it is, you know, my faith journey happened in between all of that.
Mhm. Can you kind of pinpoint the time, when you saw a loose thread
Yeah.
and maybe you put off tugging on that loose thread knowing that it could unravel. But
Mhm.
when can you recall that you started to realize you had some questions? Things weren't matching up for you. You
Yeah.
had some doubts, perhaps.
Yeah, I think there's always those little things that in the beginning that even when you're a kid, you're like, "What?" I remember playing with friends and saying things and, just about my own religion and church and
Mhm.
thinking, I'm Christian, and them having a totally different experience at church and thinking, "Wait, y'all don't do this exact same thing as I do at church?"
Every first Friday of the month, I offer a free coaching hour. Anyone is welcome to join, and you may leave your camera off and change your name if you would like to remain anonymous. This is an opportunity to get introduced to my style of holistic coaching and gain real skills, insight relevant to you, and fresh perspective on life circumstances. For those attending, there will be opportunities for a complimentary one-off energy alignment session. Register at the link in the show notes. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even my own, like, grandparents, aunts and uncles, and a few one-liners that would come from different family experiences. It would always make me go, "Huh?" Right? Because it's supposed to be church, it's supposed to be God, Jesus, universal love, and so that always kind of felt weird
Yeah,
to me.
can be
But
confusing for a kid.
yeah, but I specifically remember in the moving truck, when we moved from Austin to Salt Lake City, my mom and I were driving. We had, 2 moving trucks, and then my high school sister, she drove with a car. And so my mom and I were in one of the moving trucks, and I remember specifically asking her, "What ever happened to Emma Smith?" And I had just gone on a whole, like, trip to see all of the church sites with a bunch of other teenagers,
Mhm.
and I realized that they stopped talking about her after a while. And my mom just she kind of just had a way of answering it like, "Well, she went through a lot and she faced a lot of hard things." And, I think my mom said, "And I will always love and respect her." And
Good
I
for your
thought,
mom.
"Yeah, yeah, true." But I think it didn't answer my question. And
Yeah,
it made me think, what did
true.
I just ask that I wasn't supposed to ask?
Mhm.
Like, there wasn't an answer to the question. And so there were times where that kind of thing happened,
Mhm.
and as little things would happen like that, like, we would come to church on Easter, and the people who were assigned to give the talks or the speeches during, the big
Service.
service,
Mhm.
they would talk about missionary work or Joseph Smith or, you know, anything but actual Easter. And Christmas, we would go in to have a Christmas lesson, and they were like, "Nope, we're talking about Joseph Smith's brother, Hiram Smith, today." And it would start to really get to me. And so I remember I was asked to give a talk on Easter, and I was so excited because I'm like, they will finally have an actual Easter message. And that morning, I got a call saying, actually, we're going to have um, a high councilman, special speaker, come in and speak. And these speakers are kind of known for just kind of droning on and on.
So you didn't get to speak?
I actually gave that exact talk the next week. I'm like, "You know what? I wrote this for Easter, so
Okay.
I'm gonna give
Yeah.
it." And so I said, "We just celebrated Easter," and then I went in on
Yeah.
to the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. How old were
But if
you,
you
would you say, when this happened? Teens?
my oldest Nicholas was 4. So,
Okay.
yeah, this was
Young
2008.
Marys. Okay.
Yeah, so what is that, 17 years ago? Holy cow.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then slowly I started to notice also this exodus of like really good friends who were leaving the church, and it was shocking to me. And I'm like, what is
Mhm.
happening? And so people just started leaving, and I had so many questions, but I was like, I'm not touching that. So I just stayed friends with them, but we wouldn't talk religion. But then more and more kept leaving. And I thought to myself, what is actually happening here? And this is before the time, like, I don't know about you, but to me right now, it kind of feels, not to be disrespectful, but there seems to be a trendiness to it, to leaving the church for some,
Mhm.
not for everyone.
I think we just have access to so much information in real time, and and it's whoever is out there willing to share their story, and sometimes not. I think we're just more exposed
Yeah,
and
I totally
aware.
agree. When
Um,
I started to have questions, that wasn't a thing. It wasn't anywhere. It was
yeah.
very, very
Yeah, because at the time you
quiet.
gave that talk in 2008, I remember I joined Facebook around that time, 2007 or
Hmm.
2008. Like, it was hitting our generation, I
Hmm.
think, finally
Yeah,
by that time. I mean, it had been around, but usually I think it was among college students.
right. Yeah. And so there
Yeah,
wasn't any kind of conversation. You didn't mention any of it. And a
yeah.
couple of years went by while I watched friends leave. And
Mhm.
eventually, what happened is it was 2013-ish because I had just had a baby, and one more set of friends left.
Okay.
And this set was a big deal, and also foreshadowing. Spoiler alert, I ended up marrying one of those big
Oh, okay,
friends. Yeah,
okay.
that's my husband. But their family left the church too, and I thought, what is happening? I remember one day scrolling on Facebook, and one of my friends who had left, she actually posted something, and she said something along the lines of, "This explains how I feel in a way that I would never be able to articulate." And she linked a blog post, and I went and read this blog post from another woman who had gone through a faith transition through the Mormon church. And when I read that blog post and she kind of explained why she left and a lot of the things that were a problem for her, there were things in that blog post that I had never known. And I had been a member of the church my entire life. And I walked away from that so angry that my entire life I had, if what was in this blog post was true, I had defended. And I was so mad that I was never told it, and I was so mad that I was never, I don't know, I felt dumb, I felt stupid, I felt embarrassed, I felt
Mhm.
blindsided, I felt, lied to, and so I decided to fact check this blog post,
Yeah.
and so I did that with different books from the LDS bookstores. Like, they always tell you to check the sources and only use LDS people, and so I started to go to some of my friends who had left to say, I need you to help me understand what is happening. And are these things true that I just read? And I had one very, very kind friend who said to me, if I genuinely answer these questions for you, you got to understand that this might actually like take you somewhere you don't want to go. This might actually, like, there's no turning back from this. And I told her, I need to know what's real. And so we
Mhm.
sat down and had lots of long conversations. That's kind of where the threads started.
What you said is really powerful, Beth. I need to know what's real.
Mhm.
Um, I think for me, more than I never really have called this a faith crisis, but I did experience what I call a trust crisis.
Mhm.
I relate to a lot of what you just said about those feelings of betrayal, of hurt, of feeling like, wow, I've given all of my life and and been what I what I hoped was, a obedient, um, faithful member, right? And by the way, I'm still that. But I define what all that means to me now. But yeah, that part of it is very real. I'm curious, I think I I experienced anger too. I'm still
Mhm.
angry about some things.
Yeah.
But I think though that often is the first emotion that we feel, and there's more below that.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's deeper. Um, and I think maybe that's where the hurt, the pain, the betrayal is found. Our initial reaction is often anger, and
Yeah. For sure.
that it's totally a valid feeling and a valid response. And we're going to have to give ourselves the permission to feel that. At least that's what I have found, because we're not going to get it outside of ourselves.
No. Yeah, 100%. And when you feel that anger, it's like I think what's hard about it is you kind of feel mad that you were duped, like you said, the trust, but also what also was made me mad, I think, too, is when I then would ask about some of these things that I read about, that's when gaslighting started
Hmm.
of, "Well, I've known this, how do you not know it?"
Yeah.
"Well, I've already heard all this, and it doesn't bother me," is the things I would hear people say. And so I think the anger would continue, it'd make me mad that I'm not being heard or mad that,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, I'm being gaslit.
Hmm.
So that would continue.
For those that maybe are not as familiar or maybe even newer to this space, can you tell us more? I know what you mean when you say
Mhm,
then the gaslighting began. Can you even share a time that you remember? You can keep it sterilized. You don't have to say names or
mhm,
anything,
mhm.
but tell us a little bit more about that and why it's so harmful.
Yeah, I think the way that the LDS Church is set up is that we have been conditioned to go and find all the answers through 2 people, the prophet of the church, the head of the church,
Hmm.
and God.
Hmm.
And the prophet speaks for God. So whatever he says, we've been conditioned that he tells us what's up. And if we don't agree with what he says, then we are told to pray until and get a confirmation that what he says is true. So there's this confirmation bias, right? So
Hmm.
when we come up with our own thoughts, our own conclusions, and they don't line up with the current leader of the church, because these guys don't stay around forever, they die.
Hmm.
And it kind of is really whoever is leading, they get to decide what we all believe now. Most of it doesn't really like change, but it's just depending on who the leader is, kind of also determines some of the stuff that ways we do stuff and things that we believe.
Hmm.
Um, and so knowing that, whatever it is he says goes, if I come up with a totally different thing, then now I'm supposed to turn around and pray and make sure that my beliefs line up with his. And if they don't, that's my problem, my fault. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And we aren't encouraged to listen to our own authority.
Yeah.
We're not encouraged to listen to our own intuition. We're encouraged to listen to the prophet. And as an extension of that, even in our own homes, our husbands are the ones who are the head. And so they are the ones that lead the family. They look to the prophet. And so if what I'm saying doesn't match up and I'm praying and it is not agreeing, and I go to my own husband to say this isn't agreeing and it doesn't match up and I feel totally different, he will side and many times side with the prophet and will, tell me how, well, at least in my experience, my previous husband was like, "No, you're
Yeah.
wrong because
Yeah,
I already knew all this."
your
Mhm.
voice was swallowed up in
Yeah.
his.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even to the point where when I explained to him, "I am praying to find out if this is real. I am I know that I am correct on this. I know." And he actually told me, "You're doing it wrong. You're actually praying wrong," which is frustrating because I know I'm not wrong. I know I'm not
Mhm.
praying wrong. I'm doing it the same way I've always done it. And just because it's not the same as a prophet, it's not the same as my husband, doesn't mean it's not the same as
Yeah.
God.
I believe that's a necessary part of our
Mhm.
journey, that being in that space of, you're getting. I grew up calling it personal revelation. I now call
Mhm.
it a variety of things: intuition, an inner knowing, an inner voice, divine downloads,
Yeah.
channeling, right? Knowing that you are receiving that, and yet it is in conflict with what you had been taught, or something that's right there, or someone that's right there in front of you. And even though inside you have that inner knowing, that inner voice, actually claiming it and acting on it and doing something about it, that's a whole nother thing. And I think it's unique to women, and I'm going to include marginalized voices with that, people of color and the queer community, because it's not the dominant voice. And
Right.
so that takes a lot of growth. It takes a lot of, um, we'll just say, stepping into your brave, courageous self. For me, what really ignited that, what spurred that on, was learning that my kiddo was queer. It's been
Mhm.
6+ years. And, so I think a lot of people are going to have that moment where they had their reason. They had that deep, solid, um, grounding moment that they needed to claim that voice, and they needed
Yeah.
to do something about it, whether that just means having a conversation one on one, or in a group, or whatever, right? That's going to be different. You don't need to get in front of the pulpit necessarily and say,
Mm-mm. No,
in
I
order
never
to.
went on Facebook and announced
Yeah,
I'm leaving.
right.
I
Claiming
No.
your voice is going to look differently for everybody, and all ways are valid, even if it's
Yeah.
writing it in your journal.
Yeah. Well, even, I remember telling my previous husband, "I have questions
Hmm.
and concerns." And so we actually came to a, compromise of things that I would still do and things I would no longer do in
Hmm.
relation to church and
Hmm.
church activity and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so that continued for a while, um, until I needed to recompromise or redecide or reconfigure it, and
Yeah.
it was like turning off a faucet, really, just less and
So
less.
would you say that was the point where you really claimed your voice, or when was that point, or perhaps it was more than one?
Yeah. I think for me, I'm one of those people that when you get into a swimming pool, I kind of wade in there. I go slow. Don't push me. I tell my
No matter
boys.
how
Yeah.
warm or cold, you just.
Yeah, and I live in Texas, right? So I'm like, "Don't push me." My kiddos know, like, once mom's in, it's okay, but if you splash her or get her in, she's I don't know, I've always been really, really cold-natured, like, really cold inside, and, my hands are always cold, and so I have to get used to the temperature. I don't dive in deep to anything quickly. Same with the church. I knew that what I was learning and unlearning was not gonna be an overnight thing. And so I had to slowly build a different testimony And it took, um, 4 or 5 years where I got solid in my own foundation of what I knew, what I believed, and who I felt I could talk to and tell and trust to tell. And so in the beginning, when I felt safe enough, I only really told the people who I knew that had already left. And oddly enough, we were at a lunch one day, my previous husband and I. We were friends with my now husband, Josh, and his family. And we were at this lunch. My husband said, I'm going to lunch with Josh. You want to come? And I was like, yeah, that'd be so fun. We brought our new baby, who's now 11, 12. He's 12. And we came to lunch, and Josh and his family had just left the church. And my previous husband was talking to him about it. And Josh was sharing openly, like, here's what I know, here's what I believe. And here are the things that kind of are hard for me. And as he was saying that, I had not had the courage to really share with my then husband. But
Okay.
listening to Josh share,
Mhm.
I felt safe enough to start asking questions to him in front of my previous husband.
Mhm.
And the conversation shifted from the two of them talking to now Josh and I talking about my questions, about some of my concerns. They were very light. I tried to keep them as light as possible for the lunch conversation to not scare my husband. But because I felt safe enough to ask these questions with a buffer,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is still so funny to me, um, I felt safe enough to ride home that day after that lunch and openly share with my husband, I have these concerns. And what's funny about that, or interesting, is that it's a very big part of our relationship now, mine and Josh's, is safety. Lots of safety, lots of I feel safe to say, I feel safe to do. Um,
So
and so
important in
I
our relationships,
yeah,
regardless of whether the topic
mhm,
is faith or religion.
whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
safety is paramount.
yeah,
So obviously that began a cultivation of you learning how and when you were safe and how to create more safety for
yeah,
yourself
and
and
mhm,
introduce it into your spaces because
yeah,
I know you're at a different place now. Your faith journey probably looks different than maybe a much younger version of Beth would
yeah,
have
for
ever
sure.
imagined. So tell us, I purposely adjusted the title of my podcast at the beginning of this year.
Mhm.
I added the word living to the front, living beyond the
Mm,
shadow of doubt,
mhm,
because I wanted to start focusing more on the life
yeah,
and the living that comes on the other side of maybe that comes on the other side of feeling those uncomfortable, sometimes scary feelings and just stepping out into the great wide unknown and uncertain that can actually be petrifying at times. But there is joy on the other side of that. There's For me, it's been a huge faith expansion. It's like, okay, I learned this that aligns. I'm going to keep it. This doesn't feel aligned. I'm going to release it. And what else is there?
yeah,
That's my favorite word, and what else? So I'd love to hear about those parts, like the joy that has come, the life and the living that has come on the other side of stepping into all this unknown.
yeah. I think because I allowed myself to go at my own pace. No one shoved me into my new beliefs, no one shoved me out of my religion. I did it on my own timeline, my own pace, as fast or as slow as I wanted to go. Because of that, I feel like I have a solid foundation of exactly what you were saying. I know exactly what I believe, and I have been able to basically remove everything else that isn't that. And it has been so joyful. You would think it would be dark and scary and I'm lost and afraid.
Mhm.
And it is the exact opposite of that. I feel light. I feel, um, happier. I feel stronger. I feel more connected to myself
I was
and
just gonna say that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, it's
but
a thing. It happens.
yes. Yes, and I have literally cut out the middlemen, not middleman, middlemen, and now I feel like I have a direct just God and I have a we have a thing going on and it is
Yeah.
ours, and there is literally no one in between us,
Yes.
and no one will ever again be able to tell me what to believe, ever.
Yeah. I wrote my first book and, I remember writing there's a chapter that talks about this, and I wrote, "Nobody comes between me and my
Mhm.
relationship with the divine."
Right, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy about it is, as I've started to learn, now what it is I believe and bring things in, I've started to learn that I have gifts that I didn't know I had, spiritual gifts that I never knew I had.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's one
Yes.
of the places where you and I come in as friends because you and I were in the same room the day we both met Kira Brinton.
Mhm.
And I learned about channeling and I learned
Mhm.
about, you know, speaking to my spirit guides and speaking to,
Yeah.
um, you know, calling in help.
Yeah.
I had,
Our angels, our helpers, our
yes,
all
yeah,
we have a team,
yeah. It's
and it's
funny.
so beautiful. Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. I had thought about some of that before.
Mhm.
I had kind of come to my own realizations that this might be a thing. I called it spiritual marketing for a little while in my own head
Mhm.
of like asking, when it came to my own business, like, what do I do? But when I met Kira and she started telling us and explaining that we have these guides and these angels and these people that watch over us on the other side, I'm like, I know that. I already knew that. But the way that she kind of taught us how to talk to them, um, I, I see it. I have these, I don't know if I want to go in total detail, but I have these spiritual gifts now where I am not just figuring stuff out on my own. I have a direct relationship with my guides and the people that are sent to help me.
That is so beautiful, Beth.
I love it so
I'm
much. And
so happy for you that you have found that and connected with that.
well, and I think it kind of is so interesting. And thank you. I think it's so interesting that when one thing is removed, it makes room for something else. I don't know if there would have been room for me personally to have
Yeah.
this realization and gift. And I don't know how it would have been received in my previous life.
So, one of my biggest, um, I guess I'll call it a revelation, but it's a reclamation, is I had, a huge aha moment. It was actually at a conference Kira hosted in January of this year in Phoenix, and I got some very distinct messaging, and one of them was, I used to think I had to wait until after I died to claim and use and hone and cultivate, these gifts of being a priestess and a goddess. Like, really and truly, these gifts, I have felt called into this space of being a healer, and I'm still learning about that. And I agree with you. I don't believe I would have taken up space to learn more about that in a previous version of me.
Mhm. Yeah.
And yeah, we can claim that now.
Mhm. Yeah.
We don't have to wait. And
Yeah.
that was powerful and maybe a little bit scary, but mostly powerful,
Yeah.
really and truly, and especially the more that I have stepped into that. Like, I'm studying elements of shamanism now and that. So I'm genuinely thrilled for you.
Yeah.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's
I
so
love it
neat.
for you. I picture you the week I met you,
You can
November
remember
of
the week? Oh, yeah.
2021. Mhm.
It was at Fearless. That's right.
Mhm. And
Fearless
I
Business
can
Conference.
picture
That's right.
you that week, and I see you now, and I think, like, there's my friend in both instances, but, like, the growth doesn't seem like the right word because it just seems kind of not boring, but, like, you are like, growth, but if you
Trite?
were yeah, it doesn't it's not beautiful enough, like, it's not pretty enough. It's like when you're spelling the word growth, but flowers pop out of it or, like,
Mhm.
just, a giant, beautiful
Yeah,
garden comes out of it. The amount of the ch the change, the
yeah,
shift in you. Yeah,
yeah.
it's super so
And
beautiful.
likewise, thank you for saying that, and likewise, I've seen growth and evolution from you as well,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
think
been
it's just fascinating. We think there's not going to be joy. We think there's going to be fear. We think we're going to. I specifically remember going and meeting for a couple of months, dropping my son off at preschool and going over to a lady's house once a week who had
Mhm.
left the LDS religion and asking her, "How do I do this?" And asking her all the questions like, "Well, what do I do on Sundays? Well, what do
Mhm.
I do with my family? Like, what are they gonna do about" I had so many questions of life after, and she kind of was my guide or mentor, like I was taking a class or something, and I really wasn't, but I will always be grateful for her for, like, helping me, like, kind of calm some of those fears, like, answering me in a way that just felt like, there's nothing to be afraid of here. And, like, there's so much joy that on Sundays, we are not rushing out the door to go straight to church. I used to, take 4-hour naps every Sunday. I now maybe take 20-minute naps, 20 minutes tops and barely. Um, but my family, we do stuff together. The boys and I and my husband, we we do stuff as a family instead of like
Mhm.
spending most of our Sunday in a building and then most of our week doing things for the church. And it's not that we don't, do things for the community. It's different. It's different. Mhm.
There's so much power in having this awareness that you have this thing, whether it's beliefs, whether it's a way of life, whether it's the way you are, your being, and then just stepping back and being the observer of this thing, this entity, this organization, these beliefs, whatever, and purposefully and thoughtfully examining them, even if you then re-choose them, you
Yeah.
reintegrate them back into your life. It's so empowering to do
Right.
that. And
Yeah.
I love that I did arrive at a point where I gave myself permission, as scary as it is to even think about calling into question some things that go along with this journey. It is. Nobody goes out searching for this. That's such a
No.
misconception. Nobody is takes this lightly, at least in my experience. And I've talked with a lot of people. It's not when it's something that has been such an integral part of your not just your life, but the people who've come before you.
Yeah. It's
So,
exactly like you're saying, like, how would I take this lightly if I have 3 boys
yeah.
that I now need to raise
Mhm.
in a completely different religious paradigm, right?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to do that? It's not only like, um, my own life that I'm watching over, but it's
Mhm.
theirs too. And so when I question these things and when I look at these things, I'm not doing it just like so I can, drink coffee, which, LDS people
Yeah.
don't do, or drink alcohol, which LDS people don't do. Like my boy's life, my boy's spirituality, that is so much more to me than any of these things that people are just like, oh, well, you wanted to sin, you wanted to drink
Yeah.
alcohol, you wanted to. I'm like, no, don't mix it up because
Yeah, please don't reduce it. to that.
Right, right, because this is so huge.
Yeah,
This is one of the biggest things I will question in my entire
yeah,
life, and and then coming to the conclusion that this isn't right for me, it felt like a death.
yeah. It did. Yeah, I
The
relate to that.
grieving and the death that came with it, it is not to be oh, I would not go through all of that just so I could drink alcohol, just so that I could wear a tank
Right.
top shirt, just so I could
Yeah,
drink coffee. No,
yeah,
absolutely not.
yeah. I want you to know I see you and I hear you, and I a lot of what you're sharing, resonates. Um, you know, hearing somebody witness or testify in a class or in a church meeting of some kind to say, I know this thing beyond the shadow of a doubt was something I heard a lot growing up.
Mhm.
Maybe you did too, because certainty was very much prized. It was sought after. It was what we were supposed to aspire to. And having this pivot in my faith journey so many years back now, I realized I wasn't letting myself lean into these questions and doubts because of the shame and the guilt that I would feel as they came up because of what I was making it mean about me and who I was as a person and as a faithful person and whatnot. But I'm past that, and but that's been the inspiration behind the name of my podcast, right? That let's talk about doubt and let's cast it in a completely different light. The true light. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a catalyst to growth.
Mhm.
It's two sides of the same faith and doubt are two sides of the same coin. The opposite of faith is not certainty, it's doubt, right? So, having said that, my last question for each of my guests is tell us, what does living beyond the shadow of doubt mean to you?
Really do feel like it is giving yourself the permission to listen to yourself. Like, we have been pre-programmed. We have come to this earth programmed and wired to have an intuition. And how did that happen? God. And so to bypass that wiring for some random dude in another state or another part of the world to tell me what's true and what's not, when my wiring, the way God created me, and those alarms going off,
Mm.
it really is gaslighting yourself. It really is telling your inner truth, your inner knowing, your inner compass to take several seats. And I will never, never do that again. I trust my intuition so much that now my family teases me, not in a mean way, but joking, like, I like to say, "Well, how does that make you feel?" Because I ask my own self, I ask my husband, I ask my
Yeah,
kids, I
that's
ask
so
my
important.
clients, drop into your body. What is your body telling you about this situation? Does this
Absolutely.
feel true to you? Does this feel off? Is there some kind of friction here?
Yeah.
Like,
We've
what
we've
is
really
that?
been taught to dismiss the
Right,
messages of our
right,
body for
right.
all of our lives. Yeah. I love hearing this deep connection you have found and are cultivating and have with your divine
Mhm.
inner knowing, your divinity,
Yeah,
which has been always there,
yeah.
and that you're able to share that with your clients and family and all those around you.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's a
it's
beautiful
been a
thing.
gift. Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah.
So, what is the easiest way for folks to reach you or connect with you?
I like to hang out on Instagram, Beth.Hinze, Hinze, like the
Hmm.
ketchup, but just spelled different. Beth.Hinze.coaching on
That's
Instagram.
awesome.
I don't always post and stuff because I am more of a watcher. I like
Uh-huh.
to I like to I'm a serial harder. I love to go in there
Uh-huh.
and, like, see your stuff and pump you up.
You're
Um,
But you have a presence, and so if folks wanted to reach
yeah,
out, they could DM
yeah,
you and, you know,
100%.
connect and
Yeah,
follow. That's
and then
great.
I also have a website,
Okay.
bethhinze.com,
Okay.
BETHHINZE.
We'll make sure and put both of those in the show notes. So really quick, I'm just going to blow through some questions really fast, just looking for 1 to 2 word answers,
Mhm.
just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better.
Mhm.
Tell us your favorite book or a favorite book.
Um,
Narrowing it down is hard for some.
I know. Eat, pray, love.
That is a good one. Okay, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an introvert.
Can do that. Who's your favorite artist?
Music artist
You
or
pick. You pick the
painter or
genre.
oh, music, Sarah McLachlan, Taylor Swift. I know it sounds trendy, but, like, from the country
No,
days, like yeah,
no.
but Sarah McLachlan for sure. I never miss a concert
Yeah,
when she comes to Austin.
good for you.
Mhm.
Are you a night owl or a morning lark?
Morning. I love this one-liner, "It's 9 o'clock somewhere." Put my pajamas on and 7:30 if I could.
That's true. I do remember that about you at various conferences we've been at and
Yeah,
shared
first
an
to fall asleep.
Airbnb.
Yep.
I forgot about that. That is so true. Okay, tell us your celebrity crush.
Oh, it used to be Matthew McConaughey, but then I saw him in real life and he has very small hands. So now I think maybe Ryan Gosling or what's his name? The guy on Twisters. Is his name Gary something? Anyway, he's from Austin. He went to the same high school as me. But I think he's
I don't
super
even
handsome. Whenever I see him on a movie, I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be good."
That's fabulous. And then do you do still or carbonated water, diet soda, some other fun beverage?
Yeah,
What's your fave?
I'm Diet Dr. Pepper's biggest fan.
There you go. And then finally, the furthest place that you have traveled.
Um, I lived in Germany when I was a kid. For a couple years, my dad was stationed there in the army. I know you said 1 or 2 word answers, but I just cannot,
It's
Megan.
okay. You're not alone in that.
Yeah.
Well, Beth, it has been so much fun to chat with you and reconnect, but also I learned some things about you that I didn't know. So thank you for trusting me and our listeners with that and
Well,
your
thank
story.
you for inviting me and trusting me
Absolutely.
with your listeners. I appreciate it. And also
Absolutely.
for those who are listening, Megan has been a coach for my own son. Um,
Mm,
he
yeah,
just adored your work. He thought the world of you, and so Megan's been so helpful to our family personally.
he's a good kid.
Good friend to me, good coach to my boy. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love him.
Love you to pieces, friend.
Love you too. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Writer, teacher, author, Mormon scholar, and founder of Dialogue Journal, Eugene England said, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue." As a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, my hope is that Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is an extension of that vision. Hopeful Spaces is a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. It's a free monthly parent, ally, or caregiver support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. Email chc@dallashopecharities.org for more info. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.